Nation of Fit in 10, it is day 18. We are, well, just over a quarter of the way through the challenge, and you can see how fast this takes place, right? This is a super fast challenge, and I want to remind you, while you can make very good change in this challenge, you can make exceptional change if you are dedicated and you plan. And when I say change, I'm talking about body fat loss. Hopefully good changes to your habits as well. The challenge isn't purely focused on getting rid of as much body fat as possible, right? The whole idea around this is a happy medium. The whole idea around this is to show you that you can lose a reasonable amount of body fat, or a decent amount of body fat, or perhaps maybe even a really good amount of body fat without doing anything extreme, right? Okay, because you can always do more. And certainly you can do way more than what this challenge asks of you, and you could get more progress. But again, it boils down to what is going to be, more reasonable, more sustainable, right? Obviously, in order for something to be sustainable, as you've heard me say before, for it to be sustainable, it has to be reasonable, right? So again, this challenge is trying to focus more on a happy medium. Yes, I know the food is a big move up for you in terms of measuring everything out, yada yada yada. But again, there's a reason for this, and one of those reasons there are reasons for this. One of the reasons is for you to learn what foods contain what and how much. Right? That's really the reason behind it. Okay. Also, it's good to know exactly where you stand. That is the advantage of measuring your food. You know exactly what your energy intake is, right? You can't know what your energy intake is if you're not doing that. So you can ballpark it, but you could also be way off, right? Okay, somebody asked me the other day, what should we do? And I realize that I'm jumping ahead here, but the question was asked, what should I do with my diet after the challenge? I mean, is this really the way we should eat afterwards? And you're opening up a can of worms here when asking a question like this, because really, the question is, what are you trying to achieve? What do you want? Right? I mean, it's kind of like saying, should I drive a pickup truck? I don't know. I mean, what are you trying to do? Are you hauling stuff around all the time? Yeah, maybe you do want to own a pickup truck, right? What's the best? Should I wear golf shoes? Yeah, you should if you're going to go golfing, right? My point is there's a specificity to things, right? So, should you follow this diet afterwards? Well, it depends. I mean, if we're talking about, again, the reason why I put this together is it's meant to be reasonable. Hopefully it's, at least somewhat enjoyable to you. Hopefully you're learning. At least it's enjoyable in the sense of learning. It's enjoyable in the sense of maybe you're liking some of the exercise component. Hopefully you are. But it's not unreasonable in terms of what is asked of you, right? Especially as you get more in tune with the system and you get more in tune with foods, and the whole measuring out process becomes less work. It's just meant to be more of a sustainable thing for the purpose of losing body fat. And of course, we're trying to keep in as much food as we can, right? So, the question might be, and there's still a lot of debate on this, but the question could be, should I follow this diet if I am trying to live as many years as possible? Because that might be your primary concern. Okay, and there's still a lot of debate on this, but the answer would probably be no. I would probably suggest something else. Okay, so it just depends on what you are looking for, right? There are certain things you want to eat, if you're trying to really maximize your strength, there's certain things you want to eat. If you're really trying to maximize your lean body mass, there's certain things you want to eat. If you're really trying to maximize the extent of your life, there's probably a certain way you want to eat. Okay, there are things that are very specific. Okay, so it depends on what your intent is with your diet long term. Okay, for the sake of this challenge, for the sake of losing body fat, for the sake of following something that is something you could potentially follow for the rest of your life, I think that this is something very reasonable, right? But again, it all boils down to, what do you want at the end of the day, right? What is important to you? Okay, how's that for me just babbling, right? Okay, more of your feedback. All right, this person writes, name something specific you need help with. This person writes, my body feels like it has changed so much and I've become so weak in the last year due to neglect that I don't even recognize myself. I'm in a phenomenal amount of pain, trying to move, and bend, and hold balance, and I don't know if I should lay off or force through, as I might injure myself. Okay, I'm just feeling a bit lost and a lot more emotional than expected. Yeah, this to me seems like you are feeling probably more emotional than expected for sure. I don't think you're going to get injured. I mean, listen, unless you have existing injuries, if you feel like the exercise is too much for you, then just scale it back slightly. It shouldn't be, but I mean, Martina's classes, I know this person's doing the online version. The classes can be fairly intense in terms of the amount of volume that you're doing. Banging is really throwing me off. There's construction around me. It's driving me crazy. And I'm losing my train of thought here. So, with this, I'm going to suggest that you do, always pay attention to the way your body feels. Okay? This right here is a perfect example of, why you, and probably why you are doing it, why you may want to start changing your habits in your life, looking at, your lifestyle, the different measures or tendencies that you have or don't have for that matter, and then changing them, right? So, but if you feel like it's a bit much, which maybe this is the case here, I can't say, then I would suggest just backing off intensity slightly, okay? So maybe taking slightly more breaks during the session, that sort of thing. But do not be afraid to push yourself to some degree, okay? You have to push yourself to some degree. This is by taking yourself above and beyond what you are comfortable with. This is going to force adaptation, and adaptation is going to be progress for you, okay? Is there anything you'd like me to cover in this week's video series? The aging process and why it seems so much harder to find or build strength after periods of sloth than it was previously. Okay, so to this person's not old by any means. I don't believe that this is aging. Okay, now obviously with aging there is going to be some decline, but at this age, or the age that you're at, there's not really that much decline. What this is it's just you have changed your habits, you've changed your way of life. It's more your habits over time. Your habits over time. Generally when you're going through your childhood, your teens, you're generally more. First of all, you have less responsibility. You're generally moving more about. You don't, have access to. You can't drive, that type of thing. But generally, you just have less responsibility, so you have more freedom to do the things that you want to do. You probably have less of that now. And the other thing that comes along with more responsibility is we look for outlets, right? And I'm not speaking to this person specifically. I'm actually speaking to all of you. I'm speaking to myself. We always look for outlets, things that are stress relieves, but sometimes, are stress relievers. Sometimes these things are not the best thing for us, right? A big thing for some people is, alcohol, for example, right? And this is something that I see time and time again with a lot of my clients is an alcohol dependence. Not necessarily alcoholics, but as soon as you say no, you can't have that anymore, it's like I'm taking oxygen away from them. So I think that there are certain things you just want to look at the habits, you want to look at the things that you've been doing over the years, become hopefully perhaps you are very introspective. I'm just throwing it out there, but look back, become aware of what you're doing, put it out on paper, take note of some of your habits, write it out on paper, and that may be an indicator, or that may illustrate a better picture to you as to what's going on too, right? So, but sometimes it's not about, again, this challenge is a bit, it can be a lot for some people because I don't know the relative change that you're making in your life. But sometimes just making some change is better than making no change, of course, and it's better than making a lot of change, because a lot of change can be sometimes too much for somebody, right? So making some change, and then making some more change after you get used to that little bit of change, right? It's just like acclimating to change over time, right? But adding in more change as time goes on. But this is nothing to do with, or very little to do with, age. This is more related to your lifestyle over time. Okay, and while you may be struggling with it now, it will become easier and easier and easier. It will be, trust me. Okay, you are just a reflection of your recent past, as I mentioned a couple days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. Can't quite remember. You are just a recent reflection of your past. So when your recent past becomes one of changing those habits to things that are, quote, better, things will get better for you, right? You become more a reflection of that past. How am I doing for time? 11 minutes. Okay, I talked a lot. I don't really know if I said very much, but I talked a lot. Okay, message of the day. The difference between who you are and who you want to be lies in what you do. Well, I guess this actually really goes... I didn't set this one up, to be honest with you. It just happens to fit in perfectly with what I just talked about. The difference between who you are and who you want to be lies in what you do, okay? So you can't expect to jump into something new and then all of a sudden be who you want to be, right? That will take some time. So jump in, make the changes. Yeah, it's going to be like, treading through caramel or something like that, right? Some thick mud, perhaps, but over time it will get easier. It will become water, and then the water will become less and less deep, okay, become more shallow, and then before you know it, you're out of water and you're moving about. It becomes much, much easier, okay? But that's not really what this one is saying, per se. It's saying more that the difference in who you want to be and, the difference between who you are and what you want to be just simply lies in what you do, right? So you got to look back and see what you're doing, and then start to put in the things, the measures that will make change, and then what with those changes? What? You got to make them consistent. It's got to become a habit, right? It's got to become a habit. Positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself, for the love of God, give some gratitude. I'll talk to you very soon. See you guys.